Well, welcome everybody. As everyone is logging in, we'll give them a few minutes still. As you join us, we're excited to have you here. If you could go ahead and just type in your name and your district or where you're from, we'd really appreciate that. We'd love to see who's joining us. I think we still have a few more logging in. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Just a little bit of housekeeping. We wanted to let you know that this is being recorded and it will be sent out to the participants who have registered for the webinar. And we also will be posting it on the SchoolDay.Academy website. So this will be live and available for you to go back and take a look at later if you'd like to, or share it with your colleagues after you see all of the great information that we have. Throughout the webinar, if you have questions, feel free to go ahead and type those into the chat box. And then if we have time at the end, we'll try and answer some of those as well. So today, we're going to be exploring what it means for K-12 districts to build AI-ready CTE programs and how leaders can prepare students for a workforce that's reshaped by artificial intelligence. I'm Heather Sherburn. I'm the academic officer for SchoolDay Academy, and it's my honor to host this webinar today. I'm a retired assistant superintendent where I spent over 34 years in the K-12 education system, and I retired from a school district in the Central Valley of California with over 34 years of education experience. So this has just been a great time for me to be able to get out and explore some of these other topics in my retirement. I've watched our world over the years really start to change faster and faster, faster than any of us expected, and especially with AI reshaping the careers our students are heading into. And while it's really exciting, it's also a little bit overwhelming, and it absolutely requires us to think differently about our CTE programs today, I think. So we're here to get real about what it means to become AI ready as a district CTE program and talk about how we can support our students for the future that they're walking into. So again, I'm really glad you're here. So before we go any further, let's get grounded in what we mean by an AI-powered economy. In our mind, what we think is this is a world where AI isn't just a specialty skill or a separate field, but rather it's woven into every job sector, every workflow, and every industry. Our students will be expected to use AI the way we once expected basic computer literacy, and they'll need to be able to do that responsibly. They need to be prepared for the job roles that continue to change really rapidly. And in reality, they will be collaborating with AI more and more in the everyday work that they will do in their careers. So that means that we as educators need to support them, and we need to give you the tools to help prepare our students for this new reality. AI is no longer optional in CTE conversations because the workforce has already moved. Employers are shifting their expectations faster than our curriculum cycles can keep up, and students will need to work with AI in nearly every career field. And CTE sits right at the front of the line for preparing our students in today's world. This must not just be with the technical skills, but it also has to be with the confidence to use AI as a tool in their future jobs. So as we begin our conversation, I'm excited to have our panelists with us today. I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Jason Adams. He joins us from Webster Grove School District in Missouri, where he serves as Assistant Superintendent. He leads innovative work around CTE modernization, along with providing leadership on curriculum, instruction, assessment, and professional development. He emphasizes student-centered learning in his work. We're also joined today by David Leaser, who is the Vice President of MyInnerGenius. MyInnerGenius is a career success platform used by districts and employers across the country to help students find careers they're passionate about rather than just suited to. David is also a former IBM executive, author, keynote speaker, and one of the leading voices in skills-based learning. So thank you both for being here with us. We really appreciate it. If we can, David, let's start with you. From your vantage point, working with employers nationwide, what are you hearing about how skill needs are changing for employment in this era?
It's really interesting because when I spent almost my entire life in the tech field, and I spent 25 of those years at IBM. And so technology was constantly changing. It was also, when I was at IBM, I was responsible for helping to develop what was called the smarter workforce, where we were starting to bring AI into HR. And what's old is new is really what I'm hearing. And I'm seeing that. And by the way, there was recently an article in Fortune magazine that showed that from an AI perspective, 95% of the pilots that were launched in the last 2 years have failed. And I think that's just a remarkable number. And the reasons that they're failing is not because of the technology. It's because of, one is integration. That's a big problem. But the other one is human capability, that the human capabilities aren't there. And when I think about all of these years, like you just mentioned, all these jobs that are changing and all the skills that are changing, AI is not really more than instruction and input. That's all it is. It's instruction and input. If you want to simplify it in your brain, that's all AI is. It's no different than any other technologies. And I learned at IBM because I felt like I had to get a PhD every 2 years because the technology was changing so quickly, that those human capabilities were the most important and the most enduring things that students today absolutely have to have. If we don't start to really focus on those human capabilities, like learning agility, nothing else really matters.
Great, thanks so much. David, Jason, do you have anything to add to that?
I appreciate the opportunity, and I appreciate what David shared. Especially in terms of preparing students for that workforce that David is speaking to. So much has changed and so much is constantly evolving. And we too, in the education world, feel like we are constantly having to get that new PhD as well to make sure that the opportunities we are offering our students align with the opportunities that they will see whenever they get to that workforce. And a lot of what we have landed on or decided on really is those learning principles, the ability to be flexible, the ability to be dynamic and to change and to not get so structured and focused on one particular platform or one certain way of doing it, that ability to think creatively. And so something that has been really, really important within our district and on our work with AI, but also outside of AI, is really to prepare our students for that world where they are going to have to be problem solvers. They are going to have to be human-centered and creative thinkers, so that in any situation, with any new platform, with any changing technology, that they can apply those skills to that new situation and they can prove for themselves to be successful. And I'm looking forward to sharing a little bit more about that with you all today.
Great, thanks so much. So with that, let's talk about what does it mean for a CTE program to be AI ready? At SchoolDay, when we think about this, we say we're talking about programs where AI literacy is woven across pathways. It's not isolated in a single elective as if it's a separate subject, but it is really integrated, where teachers have the support and tools that they need to bring AI into their instruction confidently. It means that students are learning to use AI as a problem-solving partner and not a shortcut, and that the districts stay aligned with the ways industries are evolving. So it's really about preparing students for the realities of work and not just the requirements of a course sequence that they are taking in school. So with that in mind, I'd love to hear from you both about what does AI readiness really look like from your perspective? And Jason, I'd like you to go first.
Sure. So when I think of AI readiness, and as we think about the work that we're doing in my particular school district, AI readiness really does begin with four key areas that we've been doing a lot of thinking around, and it starts with what is the purpose and what are we hoping to use AI for, whether it is to help us to problem solve and generate new ideas, or help us to think about the organization of how we are moving forward ideas and how we're presenting that and sharing those ideas with others. There's a variety of different ways. So getting really clear and helping our students to understand what is the purpose and how do you plan to use AI in whatever work you are hoping to do. The next piece really has been, and I believe should be a priority, is the safety piece, and making sure that our students and our system overall recognize the importance of safety, have measures in place, but that we are also teaching our students, teaching our staff the importance of, as you are interacting with AI, as you are interacting with others using AI, that you know how to keep yourself safe and you know how to keep others safe as well. And then the other two areas really do have and are higher level, but the ethical work around AI, and just because it does allow us the opportunity to process faster or to make decisions quicker. Also being mindful of what are the ethics and what are the different dilemmas that present themselves when using artificial intelligence, and bias and all of those pieces and how that plays out. And then that leads to the fourth area that has been really important for us to consider, and that's legality and the importance of legal aspects and making sure that we're keeping everyone safe, that we're being ethical in our delivery, but that we're also making sure that our students and our staff are prepared to meet the guidelines and to meet the safety structures that are in place.
Great, thank you. And so, David, as you think about what a CTE program really needs in order to be AI ready for this world, what are you seeing that you can add to?
Well, I think Jason outlined the four categories perfectly. And I think that the first one that he outlined was the use cases and the case studies that are used for that, because the tools are going to change and the roles are going to change. You know, a prompt engineer is probably not going to need prompt engineers in about a year or two, right? Because the systems are getting smarter. But if it's like, it's not, this is not a solution in search of a problem, really. It's what are the use cases? How can we start to collaborate with these technologies? And how do we augment what we're doing with these technologies? So I think that that's one of the big ones. Again, I harped on the idea of the human capabilities. And Jason, you said the same thing, right? I mean, really, a lot of this has to do with, adaptability, learning agility, collaboration and communication. If I think about my career, and I spent a lot of it the last, years in AI, because we led with this Watson programs. But a lot of it had to do with collaboration and communication. And again, the agility and the critical thinking skills. Those things are much, much more important than the tools. And unfortunately, people get hung up and wrapped around the axle around the tools. They're always focused on that because it's kind of easy, to teach a person, how do I become a prompt engineer? That's not what they need, really. They need this foundational level stuff. We need to make sure that they're in the right roles. We can teach them the tools, and they're going to change every 6 months. But we shouldn't do that. But the ethics one, Jason, I really like what you talked about with the ethics, because I think there's so much hallucination in AI, and are so many dirty data sets that are in AI that there's a real risk of excluding people and marginalizing people because of information. And we're seeing lawsuits. And my prediction for 2026, Paulie, is that we're going to start to see more lawsuits as people are starting to use inference, for example, to make hiring decisions. Well, you can't infer what you don't know. And so somebody that's just coming out of high school, your students, they're going to get screened out because they didn't have 5 years or 10 years of experience in XYZ. And yet they have all of the capabilities, the mindsets and everything else to do a better job than somebody that's been doing it for 3 years that hated it. So I think I think teaching them the ethics, I think, Jason, you're just spot on that.
Wow, that's clearly a complex issue. So, as we think about it and we think about our CTE programs, are we still preparing students for yesterday's jobs that may not align to the current labor trends, especially given all the rapid changes and impact of AI everywhere? So, Jason, what does this look like for Webster Grove? And, where have you recognized the need to modernize or rethink your legacy or existing pathway programs?
Yeah, I appreciate that question, and I'll be honest and completely transparent. This is something we, as a school system, can continue to challenge ourselves to make sure that we are staying current with what is happening. And um, our pathways, we have various pathways, and some of them you can clearly, like for instance, our business and technology pathway, or our building and fixing pathway, where there's a lot of engineering concepts and industrial technologies and automotive work and various careers that fit within those pathways. There's a clear connection to AI and using generative technology to be able to support that work. What's challenging us is thinking about some of our more human-centered pathways, such as our helping pathway, which our teacher recruitment program fits in, or our health pathway in terms of thinking about future doctors, future nurses, et cetera, and thinking about what are the implications of AI in those particular careers, and what then does that look like in support of the work that we are doing in our classrooms and across all of the pathways. And so one area that we are currently challenging ourselves is to look at all of our pathways, even pathways like our art pathway, and how does and how can AI support the work that's happening in our visual arts programs or in our music programs or even physical education. There are implications across every pathway, across every career. And if we're not clear about what those are just yet, we will be very clear in the next few years, because again, to what David shared, there are implications across all of it. And so thinking about not only the courses we offer, but the instructional delivery and how we are incorporating AI into not only how our teachers are presenting and facilitating and sharing the learning, but then also thinking about how our students are using AI to then present and transfer their learning across all content, across all pathways. And so to be honest, it is a challenge, but we are doing our very best to try to move forward with that challenge and to try to stay as current as possible.
Right. And I imagine, it's a little bit like having two jobs, because you can't be an expert in all things, in all careers, in all fields. And yet we're trying to offer a diverse set of opportunities for our students, and keeping up with your work that you're teaching students every day, but also how are the careers changing, and learning about that and then going back to infuse it is really like two jobs in one. David, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, and so one, and maybe this is a best practice from the tech world more than it is anywhere else for schools to adopt. But one of them is to develop a taxonomy and also basically, let's start with a taxonomy. Let's start with a taxonomy and an ontology that says these are the skills and capabilities that we are teaching in these particular areas, right? Once we have that down at that granular level, it's very easy then to prepare people for the next role that's going to come up. So for example, in the tech world, we found that we started doing this and we started looking at the jobs, let's say a help desk person, right? Well, a help desk person has these schools, they have collaboration capabilities, they have communication skills, problem solving skills, stress tolerance. They have all these different things that they have, right? These are very transferable skills. If I want to build up my tech sellers in an organization, they're almost the same skills, right? I need somebody who's a problem
Mhm.
solver. I need somebody who has stress tolerance because that's a stressful job. I need somebody who can collaborate and communicate, right, with the client. All these things, all I have to teach them is 4 skills. So rather than saying, well, I have to go into this hire a salesperson that has these 11 or 15 skills, no, I already have people that have all 8 of these skills. I only have to teach them these 3 or 4. I have to teach them sales processes, or how to get to yes, or whatever it happens to be for selling.
Mhm.
And I think that there's a really an opportunity for the schools to start to think about the classes, on what capabilities are in each one of these classes, and then how can we start to say, by the way, after they graduated, hey, you know what, they went down this one path, but we didn't lose all of that stuff, right? Maybe we digitally badged it or something like that. We have all these capabilities and we have a data set on this thing. We can get them upskilled in half the time. They don't have to learn 18 skills, they only have to learn 3.
Right, right. Great. Thanks so much for that thought. So, one of the things we're wrestling with now is how can districts assess their CTE readiness? When we talk about assessing whether a CTE program is truly AI ready, districts need a simple framework. We think as well, and your taxonomy was a great example of a way to look at it. In our mind, looking at four areas of like curriculum, teacher capacity, the student skill development, and then how do we make sure we have credential alignment with the real certifications that are needed in the industry. If you look at it through this lens, it could give leaders a clear picture of where they're strong and where they may need to modernize. So, Jason, let's see. How do you feel that this framework would help you as your lens as you're looking at your district CTE readiness?
Yeah, I appreciate that question. And when I think about our work that we've done over the last year or so in our district, a lot of our focus has been building teacher capacity. And so these four areas are it's a very simple way for us to, for me anyway, to wrap my mind around a very, very big and complex conversation. And so these four areas, especially the teacher capacity area, have really helped me to think about what are the various ways that we engage teachers in their own professional learning. It's not just about attending a workshop or attending a webinar. Those have their place, those are important, but then also what are the job embedded ways that we support our educators in terms of how they're transferring the skills that they've learned into the real world, into the instructional setting. And so thinking about coaching and thinking about in-person support, in addition to AI and technology supports that are available for staff. That has really been a focus. In addition to that, thinking about our student skills and how many of our students are coming to us already having had experiences with AI, and in many places, our student skills surpass the ability of our staff. And so how do we bridge that divide, or do we lean into it and allow our students to, within those particular principles that I spoke about earlier, thinking about safety, ethics, legality, do we learn from our students as they're engaging in their learning, and how does that change the overall idea of teaching and learning? Is it necessarily teacher to student? Or I believe we all know student to teacher, student to student, various ways of changing the teaching and learning environment. And so this particular model really does help me to think about how that curriculum alignment, the teacher capacity, then the work with students, and then the final outcome is what have our students developed or received as part of the work that they're engaging in. So it's a really neat way for me to simplify a very, very complex part of the work.
Awesome. And David, you spoke about the taxonomy, which was really insightful, I think. But how do you see this framework as really being an aid to school districts?
First of all, I'm not really an authority on districts, right? It's like you guys are.
Yeah, yeah.
But I am I'm an authority on credentials, and I think that that's really a missing point. Is how do we
Mhm.
start to credential and create digital resumes for students, so when they graduate, they not only have a digital resume, so they have some sort of source of the truth. That's one thing. Two, that it is, Jason, I think you alluded to this too, or even said it directly, aligned specifically to the jobs to be done in the labor market, that they're not these esoteric things, that they're clearly defined and they align to what's the labor market data look like in my district. And we've been working with some schools that are saying, you know what, we're going to start getting involved with the economic development boards, and we're going to be able to create these credentials. So now the economic development board knows what we are graduating, and they're going to be able to attract businesses to our area, our districts, that these students can then go into, so we don't have to lose our talent to another state or another community. So I think that creating these credentials that are clearly aligned to what the labor market needs is one. Getting granular enough on them so they can be stacked is another one. That they have clear, very good metadata inside them. That's a missing link across the board is the metadata inside those digital badges or digital certificates, whatever they are, is poorly crafted mostly. And if machines are going to read these things, it had better be pretty good. And now AI can actually do a very good job of that. One thing I will say about the credentials, and this is very, very important for the schools, is don't underestimate how much confidence it gives students. We had people that earned digital badges that were in the tech field, had lost their jobs, and they started earning digital badges from IBM. And I was really proud because they were telling us how they got these jobs. You know, that they got, after they earned these digital badges, they were getting these jobs. So I was proud of the badges, right? And I'd say three out of four people told me it wasn't that. It was the confidence I had from earning those credentials. I didn't feel like I was asking for a job. I felt like I was exchanging my skills and capabilities for money, for the revenue. So I was actively giving them something. I think that that's a really, really important point, is that data inside those things will give people confidence when they start to, and they'll start to even use the words inside the metadata. Say, here's what I do, and here's who I am, here's what I like, all these other things.
Awesome. That's a great point. So as we think about, we're preparing the students and how we're going about analyzing our district programs, we're also looking at, can AI aptitude tools help? And David, this is your area. Your work centers around aptitude-driven alignment. So tell us about the types of tools in this area that are helpful, and how do they help districts make smarter pathway decisions?
Well, I mean, if you think about a pyramid and you want a stable foundation on the pyramid, you don't start with the technical skills. You start with the human capabilities, those durable, transferable skills. You want to know what their mindsets are, what their passions are, what their interests are, all these other things. And I've seen it time and time again. We teach people things like, let's say Excel, something as simple as Excel, and we expect that they're going to be good program managers, right? But they don't like people, right? Or they don't like, they're not front office people. They may be back office people. Maybe they can be working with some accounting, but don't put them in a project management role because that happens to be open. So I think that you have to be able to identify what a person's going to love, and then identify what they're going to find fulfilling as well, right? So not just what they're going to love, but what they're going to find fulfilling. So for example, they may say, I love doing, working with the animals, but you know what? I don't like to work outdoors either. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to be working in the zoo, right? So we have to find out what's going to be fulfilling and meaningful for them. And then I think we need to get into, again, what their capabilities are, take inventory of what their capabilities are, find out what their mindsets are. That is the foundation for everything. Then once you get past that, then you can start teaching domain skills. And Jason, I think you probably do this very well, right? Teaching people about what's it going to be like in the energy sector, what's going to be like in the accounting world, what's it like in sales or marketing, or if being an electrician or whatever it happens to be, right? All these different roles. You get into the domain skills then. The technical skills and those work skills are just the top of the pyramid that are constantly changing. So you have to lay that foundation knowing that these roles are going to change.
Great. I think that's a real key point. Thank you. So Jason, when you're collecting data about your program and about your students, how do you move from data to decision making, and how do you balance innovation with the realistic capacity in your district?
Yeah, big questions there. I think the first and foremost is very much we strive to be student centered, and we like to think, and this really does drive much of our decision making, is what do our students need and what are our students telling us that they need, and we then strive to change the system to support what they're telling us they need. And so as we are thinking about, based on the model that was shared earlier, and thinking about student skills and teacher capacity and the credentialing piece, one area that we have really been looking at and trying to develop is that credentialing piece, and how that aligns with the experiences, as David shared, that our students are telling us that they want to have, and what does that credentialing look like for them as they move out into the career market and as they're looking for positions, what's going to be an added benefit for them. And so based on that, our data has told us that we have to strengthen our opportunities. At the same time, we know that staffing is a real issue, and we don't necessarily have millions of dollars and staffing capability to be able to have a staff member to do this and a staff member to do that. And so looking at opportunities, both digitally and through real life internships, where we are able to meet the individual needs of our students and their individual passions and their pathways, and then lining them up with a credential. And so that is one way through the internships, but then also looking at digital opportunities to partner with the real world, real life experiences we're giving our students, to allow for them to engage in that credentialing pathway. I think too, our overall data, and we know that data should inform change and data should inform risk taking. And so one particular area that we are looking at internally is many districts, many organizations have instructional coaching or have opportunities for experts in the field to partner with our teachers. But how many of those coaches, how many of those positions have experience and capability with AI and in terms of how to incorporate that? And so we are in the process right now of reimagining what that position, what that work looks like in our district based on what our staff are telling us and based on the data that we have about teacher capability. And how do we reimagine the staffing that we do have to then support our teachers in real time as they're working directly with students to make these experiences happen. So obviously telling us what needs to happen, then prioritizing what we feel like is most beneficial to our students, and then ultimately developing that action plan and moving forward with what we believe will provide the greatest leverage in support of what our students' needs are.
Great, thank you. Well, when we looked at the Bureau of Labor data, LinkedIn, and some other similar type sources, we identified that the pathways on the screen are experiencing very fast growth and some of the highest that are in employer demand. So, Jason and David, where do you see the biggest opportunities for districts when you look at this?
Well, cybersecurity is a huge one. I mean, there are, at any given time, there are probably 500,000 open recs for jobs in the world, in the United States rather, and 50,000 students coming out of college for that. So it's a 10-to-1 problem. So I think you have to really, you have to look at, if you're going to look at this from a regional perspective, you need to figure out from that perspective where the jobs are, what the opportunities are. These are pretty much the same roles that we developed. Like I said, when I was at IBM, I was responsible for stripping out the college degree. We basically created a program called the New Collar Program. And the idea was, we don't need a college degree to do these tech jobs. A lot of it was born out of the fact that colleges weren't producing enough people, right? And frankly, the people who were coming out of college weren't ready for those jobs anyway. So we started looking at the jobs. Well, it turns out that if you look at it today, at least at a company like IBM, 2/3 of the jobs don't require a college degree. And globally, according to the World Economic Forum, I think it's World Economic Forum, only 4% of the jobs in the world require a college degree that truly require one, even though they're all over the place on the job descriptions. They're not needed. So I think you have to start with labor market data and then start and go and back out from there. I do want to mention something else though, because I think, back to the jobs of the past, you had on the chart, a couple charts back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The jobs of the past are going to be more important than the jobs of the future in some cases. Electricians, which get paid, I think, average $80,000 a year or something like that is what the average salary is for an electrician. There are predictions that those salaries could go up to $300,000 in the next several years, because all of the data centers, all of the energy that is going to be required for all of this data processing is going to require very sophisticated electronics, sophisticated electricians. All of those, think about all those blue collar jobs are now being elevated to be able to support AI. So I think I would even add some of these jobs like electricians to this list.
That's great. So when we're thinking about it, and you guys have talked a little bit about this already, AI can accelerate work, but only humans bring that creativity, collaboration, communication, and ethical reasoning. So, Jason, what's your advice on how CTE programs should really be incorporating and developing these?
Yeah, I appreciate it, again, the question. And I think for me, it's twofold. I think part of it is the experience that we provide students as they are engaging in the learning experience. And so thinking about, there are so many capabilities and so many opportunities to engage with AI through the learning process. And how do we balance that with human interaction and opportunity to dive into real world situations? Real world learning has been very, very important to our community, very, very important to our district in terms of strengthening those interactive skills, that ability to collaborate. David talked about critical thinking, creativity. There has to be a balance of those pieces. And at the same time, part of that is also having that direct conversation with our students. A lot of our young people today, we see when they come into our classroom, or you can even see them out in public, oftentimes they are leaning more toward a screen, more toward interactive digitally. And how do we have honest conversations with our students about the need and the importance of also maintaining conversation with other humans and interactions with other humans, and thinking about the people who are around them. And I think it's okay to have a real conversation about that. It doesn't minimize and shouldn't minimize the incredible capability of AI, but we also have to also make sure that we are positioning ourselves and our students to know that humans are using AI to support the world of humans and to support the overall work that we are hoping to do to better the experience for all of us.
Yeah, I mean, you can't practice collaboration and communication unless you're actually doing those live conversations and live collaborations. And through that, you can practice creativity. So I think you're so spot on when you talk about the fact that we need to have those real hands-on project-based activities. So thank you for that.
Can I go back to that real
So
quick? Can we, if you
sure.
would mind, you know, if I were balancing it out, I would say, and I think Jason, you probably agree, it's probably 70 or 80% on the human skills and then 20% on the AI skills. Because if you don't have learning agility and you don't have growth mindset and critical thinking, they're not optional. They're essential. And you have to think about what are the essential human skills that are going to be needed to run these systems.
I agree, David. And I think I use AI all the time in my role and in my personal life, but I also have to have the ability to know how it's going to be interpreted, to know how it's going to be received on the other end, to know whether or not I'm meeting the expectation that is set for me by other people. And so AI can't teach you how to do that. And so it can help you get there, but you've got to also have that understanding for yourself.
That's great. Thank you both for that. So SchoolDay Academy is powered by Coursera, a leading online course platform. And when we think about where and or how Coursera could fit within a high school CTE program, the simple answer that we think is that Coursera can help districts offer modern workforce aligned pathways that would be nearly impossible to build or staff on their own. That whole capacity piece, right? This matters now more than ever because the field's experiencing the fastest growth, like cybersecurity, data analytics, cloud computing, software development. Those all require constantly updated content and access to that industry expertise. And when you're looking at the courses through Coursera, those are all maintained by industry experts so that they stay up to date. So, through SchoolDay Academy's partnership with Coursera, districts can offer a full spectrum of pathways, not just technical ones, though. Students can explore IT, cybersecurity, and UX design, but they can also pursue project management, sales, business foundations, bookkeeping, hospitality, social media marketing, and a whole host of other things. And this all matters because an AI powered economy will affect every career field, even the increase in the need for electricians, as David mentioned. And every student deserves to have a pathway that fits their strengths and aspirations. So we think that our courses through Coursera really help because they solve problems that schools are facing, like teacher shortages or outdated curriculum. the equity and access gaps because it provides online asynchronous structure to ensure students in rural and urban or under-resourced schools have access to the high quality learning. SchoolDay has made a point of making it very affordable for unlimited access. And the pathways are built around in-demand careers using employer-validated credentials. So we have that labor market alignment. So we think that SchoolDay Academy and Coursera give districts a scalable way to modernize programs, offer pathways that match workforce needs, expand access for students, and support teachers, all while maintaining the integrity of CTE standards and sequences. Because it's not a replacement for a CTE program, but it's a powerful extension to it that allows teachers to then build those human capacity skills in by helping with the hands-on projects and having students interact together. So Jason and David, given everything we've been discussing, where do you see the biggest opportunities for districts to take advantage of the pathways that are offered through Coursera and the SchoolDay Academy to strengthen their CTE programs and better prepare students for emerging careers?
Oh,
I
Want to start?
Jason.
Go ahead.
Thanks, David. Thanks, David. I'll try to keep it quick. I'm most excited by the industry credential piece. And so we've had many internal conversations with staff around industry recognized credentials, and they're within our state. There are state approved credentials. There are employment credentials that are there. But what we find is oftentimes industries will tell us that sometimes those state approved credentials, the industry has already outgrown some of those credentials. And so what's most attractive to us is the fact that the industry credentials developed through Coursera very much are in alignment with the current labor demands and are very much designed to meet the workplace need. And so we feel like that they are the most up to date in terms of aligning our students with the experience that future employers are looking for. And so for us, it's a very clear opportunity to provide our students with that real-time, if you will, industry credential that's very relevant and current for them.
Thank you. David?
Yeah, well, and I'm come from the corporate side, but there's a real movement in the corporate side, and I've spoken about this at conferences like the Adobe conference, that in the L&D space, the role of the L&D leaders is changing right in front of our eyes dramatically, and people are starting to get scared because they're like, what is my job going to be? All this content is coming out from all these different places. People are learning on YouTube, they're learning all these other places. What's the opportunity for L&D? And I think the same thing is true for teachers. There's now, again, focusing on like this Coursera coursework, like you said, Jason, it's always up to date. It's always industry leading. You can trust it, right? That gives teachers an opportunity to really become consultants and counselors in a way that they never really could before. Instead of focusing on all this curriculum work and all this staff work around the curricula, now you can start to say, you know what, I already have that down. We already have that stuff. I now can start to curate in a different way. And I can start, by the way, I can start using AI against all these data sets that I have around my students to say, how do I fill in the gaps? So instead of having somebody go through, they're going to go through 10 chapters. No, I already know that they already have the first 6 down because I've assessed that. I can go to Coursera and I can get them up and running in 2 weeks, not in 6 weeks. So I think that teachers are going to find that they're going to be able to accelerate value by taking advantage of something like this.
Awesome. Thank you for that. So we believe SchoolDay can really help support districts through our turnkey pathways, the credential integration, and the SchoolDay Academy has this special opportunity for working with the K-12 school districts, and we offer it at quite a significant discount than going through Coursera regularly. We have thousands of courses, we have over 60 pre-planned pathways, and we have professional development that can help support teachers so that they're learning right alongside. So we really want to make sure that we at SchoolDay Academy are supporting CTE programs. One of the things that makes us such a strong partner for districts is that we've built our platform and processes around the realities of K-12 systems. First, all of the student data is anonymized and protected. We take PII security extremely seriously. That's our bread and butter of our business. And districts have full visibility into how that data is handled. We also integrate directly with the LMS tools that districts are already using, which keeps that workflow simple for teachers and students. Another big priority is supporting those CTE teachers, because not every teacher comes in or can take the time to stay caught up with all of the changes that are going on in their industry. And because districts need solutions that are quick to stand up, our onboarding is really fast and the curriculum is turnkey, but we can also customize it to your local needs. And finally, students have access to those real industry certifications and career assessments. So they're not just completing coursework, they're walking away with credentials and insights that support meaningful next steps after high school. So we invite you to look at, these are just some of the pathways. These are the technology pathways that we're featuring here. Invite you to go to our website at SchoolDay.academy and see the over 60 pathways that we have available. And then we also have a professional development tab. We have a wealth of professional development on AI, the business staff, the IT staff, all the things that could help your teachers and staff in the school district stay up to date and current and ready to support teachers. And all of those licenses are interchangeable between students and staff. So we invite you to start your 30-day free trial today. That will give you full access to the over 9,000 courses. You can take as many courses as you would like in that time, and then call us and have a conversation about how we can help customize the curriculum and get you onboarded onto the SchoolDay platform and learn more about it, help you see what the MyInnerGenius assessment tools look like and what we can offer. And with that, I really want to thank our panelists. Thank you so much, David, and thank you so much, Dr. Jason Adams, for all of the wealth of information that you've been able to share with us and your insight. Please visit us at schoolday.academy or email us at info@schoolday.com. Give us a call or check us out on LinkedIn and X up there at SchoolDay Inc. With that, I had hoped we'd have a little bit of time for questions, but we are completely out of time. So thank you so much, and please let us know how we can help. SchoolDay Academy.